Let me ask you something. Have you ever given your whole heart to someone only for them to break it in front of a crowd? No warning, no mercy, just betrayal, raw and public. This isn't just a story, it's a truth too many women live with. But what happened next, you won't believe. Stay with me, because the most unexpected twist is still waiting at the end. Trust me, this one will stay with you. Now, let's begin the story. The air inside the ballroom shimmered with wealth, status, and lies. Every detail of the charity gala had been crafted to perfection. The chandeliers glittered like frozen waterfalls above tables draped in gold linen. Waiters in tuxedos weaved between guests carrying trays of champagne and caviar. It was the kind of night where secrets were buried beneath designer gowns and fake smiles. In the center of it all stood Vanessa Hale, 7 months pregnant, wearing a flowing emerald dress that hugged her swollen belly. She looked radiant, her auburn hair in soft waves, one hand gently resting on her stomach as if to shield her unborn child from the world. She had no idea her heart was about to be shattered. On the other side of the ballroom, her husband Julian Carter was laughing too hard. He wasn't with her, hadn't been for over an hour. Instead, he was with her. Tiffany Blake. Tall, blonde, dangerous, wearing a backless red satin dress that screamed, "I don't care if he's married." Vanessa's eyes locked on them. Julian's hand was low on Tiffany's back. Too low, his smile too relaxed. He whispered something in her ear, and Tiffany threw her head back and laughed like they were the only two people in the room. Guests started noticing. Whispers began. Heads turned. A few women stared at Vanessa with pity. Others tried to pretend they didn't see anything. Vanessa's heart thudded in her chest. This couldn't be real. Not here. Not tonight. Not in front of the press, donors, and board members. She was the face of the Carter Foundation, the wife of one of the city's rising tech moguls. And she was pregnant with his child. She walked toward him, slow and steady, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to war. "Julian," she said, her voice tight. He looked at her like she was interrupting. "Vanessa, you should be resting. And you should be with your wife," she said sharply, "not with your assistant." Tiffany stepped back, but her smirk stayed. Julian didn't lower his voice, he didn't pull her aside. Instead, he said it loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "That baby might not even be mine." Time froze. The music didn't stop, but it felt like it did. Conversations stalled mid-sentence. Champagne glasses hovered in midair, and Vanessa stood there, rooted to the spot, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. "What did you just say?" she asked, voice trembling. "I'm just saying," Julian continued, now turning to face the crowd like he was performing. "With the timing, who knows? Right? DNA doesn't lie." The guests gasped. Tiffany's smile widened. Vanessa's hands shook. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She felt heat crawl up her neck. Her face was burning, but her fingers were ice cold. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. Her baby kicked inside her, as if reminding her to breathe. To survive. She turned and walked out of the ballroom in silence, but every step she took felt like a scream. Behind her, Julian went back to laughing, as if he hadn't just destroyed his wife in front of everyone. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. She leaned against a column, trying to stop the dizziness. Cameras flashed. The paparazzi had been waiting. They caught everything, the tears in her eyes, the way she clutched her belly, the pain on her face. It would be all over the gossip blogs by morning. Pregnant wife humiliated by husband at gala. She pulled her phone from her clutch with trembling fingers and called the only person she trusted. It rang once, twice. Then a calm, deep voice answered. "Vanessa?" "Liam," she whispered. "I need you. I'm on my way." 30 minutes later, a sleek black Bentley pulled up to the curb. The driver opened the back door, and out stepped Liam Weston, reclusive billionaire, CEO of Weston Holdings, and Vanessa's childhood friend. And her first love. He was taller than she remembered, dressed in a tailored midnight blue suit. His dark hair was slicked back, and his eyes, the color of storm clouds, zeroed in on her face. He didn't say a word. He just pulled her into his arms. She broke down then. Not sobbing, not wailing, but silent tears, the kind that came from a pain too deep for sound. He held her until the tremors in her shoulders stopped. Then he said quietly, "Tell me what happened." She did. Every word. She told him about the rumors, the emotional distance, the fights behind closed doors. She told him about Julian's growing ego, about how he'd been more interested in magazine covers than sonograms, and she told him what Julian said at the gala. When she was done, Liam looked her in the eyes and said, "We'll get the DNA test. Not for him, for you. Because the truth doesn't just clear your name, it silences your enemies." Vanessa looked up at him, tears still shining in her eyes. "What if the damage is already done? Then we rebuild," he said, "brick by brick until your name is stronger than it ever was. Until you walk back into that world, not as a wife, but as a storm." She didn't speak. She just nodded, slowly, as if something inside her had shifted. Something had. It was the beginning of the end for Julian Carter, and the start of something far more powerful for Vanessa Hale. Vanessa Hale didn't come from money, fame, or power. She came from dirt roads, second-hand dreams, and a single mother who worked 2 jobs and still made time to read bedtime stories. Vanessa was raised in a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Cincinnati, where the walls were so thin she learned to whisper her pain. Her mother, Linda Hale, had a heart bigger than their rent checks and a spirit that refused to break, even when her back nearly did. It was Linda who taught Vanessa how to fight without fists, how to speak with kindness even when the world shouted in cruelty, and how to carry dignity like it was a crown no one could steal. By the time she turned 18, Vanessa had earned a full scholarship to a private university in New York City, an Ivy League that felt like another universe. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a heart full of hope. No family name, no legacy, just grit and a determination to rewrite her story. It was at a networking mixer for business majors that she first met Julian Carter. He had a Rolex on his wrist, a drink in his hand, and a confidence that filled the room before he even spoke. Vanessa had barely made eye contact when he approached her with a grin. "You look like someone who belongs here," he said. She didn't, not in her thrifted dress and scuffed heels, but he made her feel like she did. They started talking about books, ambitions, their childhoods. He said his parents owned a tech startup, small at the time, but ready to explode. He liked her mind, he said she was different, and he made her believe it. For the first time, someone powerful saw her as more than just a smart girl from nowhere. Julian was charming, ambitious, and most of all, persistent. Flowers showed up after exams. He walked her to class. They spent late nights in the library, not just studying, but dreaming. He told her he saw a future with her. She believed him. When they graduated, Julian's startup soared, while Vanessa quietly took a job in nonprofit management. She didn't care about wealth. She cared about impact. Her organization helped single mothers get legal help and housing, because she knew what it was like to feel invisible. When Julian proposed, it wasn't with fireworks or fanfare. Just a quiet dinner, a velvet box, and eyes that promised forever. They married in a small ceremony in Brooklyn. Vanessa wore her mother's veil. Julian's vows were poetic, but what mattered to her was the look in his eyes. It felt real. For a while it was. They were a power couple, him on magazine covers, her running community programs. Vanessa turned down the spotlight. She preferred to make change from the shadows, and for a time it worked, until it didn't. The shift was slow. Julian started coming home late. Excuses turned into silence. His phone, once open on the counter, now never left his pocket. He canceled dinner plans, forgot anniversaries, and eventually stopped noticing when she cried. She blamed stress, growth, the pressure of success, until the pressure turned into betrayal. The first time she suspected an affair, she told herself she was overthinking. But women know. We know when love starts to rot. When she found out she was pregnant, it was bittersweet. She'd always wanted to be a mother. She imagined late-night lullabies, story time, and peanut butter kisses. But she also imagined a partner who'd be excited to hold her hand during sonograms. Julian barely reacted. "That's big news," he said, looking down at his phone. She should have walked away then. But love makes fools of even the smartest women. So she stayed. She made excuses, told herself he needed time to adjust, that he was just overwhelmed. She decorated the nursery herself, choosing warm grays and yellow stars. She wrote letters to her unborn baby in a leather-bound journal. Every night she read them out loud. Every night she fell asleep alone. And then came the gala. She didn't even want to go. She felt bloated, exhausted, and emotionally drained. But Julian insisted. "You're the face of the foundation," he said. "People expect us to show up. She went for the donors, for the reputation, for him. But he didn't stand by her, he stood by her. Tiffany Blake wasn't just his assistant. Vanessa realized that now. She'd noticed the extra meetings, the travel schedules, the new cologne. Tiffany wasn't the problem. She was the symptom of a man who thought power gave him permission to play God with people's lives. When Julian made that brutal statement, "That baby might not even be mine," Vanessa didn't just lose a husband, she lost the illusion. The illusion that love could fix broken ambition. The illusion that sacrifice would earn her loyalty. The illusion that quiet grace could protect her from public humiliation. Now, as she sat on Liam Weston's couch, barefoot and wrapped in a blanket, Vanessa stared at her reflection in the window. Who was she? She was the girl who survived poverty, the woman who built a name from nothing, the mother who would protect her child at any cost. And she wasn't done. Liam walked into the room, holding a file. "Vanessa," he said softly, "I've already contacted a family law attorney. We're getting a paternity test first thing in the morning. And there's something else." She turned to him, surprised. "What? You remember the scholarship that got you into university?" "Of course," she said. "It changed my life." He smiled gently. "That wasn't from the school. It was from me." She froze. "What?" Liam looked down, almost sheepish. "I knew what you were up against. I wanted to help. I just never told you." Vanessa's throat tightened. "So you've always been there," she whispered. "Always," he said, "and I'm not going anywhere." Tears filled her eyes, but they were different this time. Not from pain, from the beginning of something new, something powerful. Because now Vanessa wasn't just a woman betrayed. She was a woman reborn. And soon, the world would know exactly who Vanessa Hale was. The story should have ended at the gala. The husband humiliates the pregnant wife, she disappears into the night, whispers of scandal swirl, and the media feasts on their tragedy. But Vanessa Hale wasn't built for vanishing. She didn't collapse in a hotel room. She didn't drown in shame. She didn't run away. She rose. The very next morning, as the tabloids screamed headlines like "Billionaire's baby scandal" and "Pregnant wife exposed," Vanessa walked into Dr. Harriet Coleman's private clinic, head held high. Dr. Coleman was one of the city's top prenatal specialists, and also one of Liam Weston's oldest confidants. The office was sleek, discreet, and media-proof. Liam had handled everything. Vanessa sat on the exam table while the technician prepared the non-invasive prenatal paternity test. She was calm, steady, even as the gel touched her belly, even as her blood was drawn. There were no tears this time, only focus. Across from her, Liam paced slowly, hands in his pockets, jaw tight. He hadn't slept, not since the gala. He kept replaying Julian's words in his head, the way he so casually denied the child, the way the crowd had gasped but said nothing. Cowards in suits, cowards in diamonds. Vanessa glanced over at him. "You're more upset than I am." He stopped pacing. "No, I'm just showing it more." The test was done. Results would come back in 5 days. 5 days to prepare. Because Vanessa wasn't going to stay quiet while the world picked apart her character. She was going to reclaim it. Later that afternoon, Liam took her to his private estate outside the city, a sprawling modern villa on a cliffside overlooking the Hudson. It was a fortress of glass, steel, and silence, a perfect sanctuary. There, Vanessa began to plan. Her first call was to her attorney, Gloria Whitmore. Gloria was a legend, Harvard law, ice-cold logic, and a reputation for destroying egotistical husbands in court. Vanessa didn't want revenge. Not yet. She wanted protection. For herself. For her child. For her future. "I want a legal separation," she told Gloria over video call. "And I want full control of any shared assets tied to my foundation work. Julian can keep his shares, but he doesn't touch what I built." Gloria nodded. "We'll move swiftly. I'll also prepare for defamation. The moment those paternity results come in, we strike." Vanessa ended the call and exhaled slowly. It had begun. That evening, while Julian Carter lounged in his luxury penthouse, sipping bourbon and scrolling through media coverage of the gala with a smug grin, Vanessa was digging up receipts. Emails, texts, calendar logs. She hadn't confronted him when she first suspected the affair, but she had documented everything. He thought she was naive. He forgot she had a memory like a steel trap. Liam joined her at the dining table, watching silently as she built a timeline of betrayal. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. She didn't hesitate. "I'm not just defending myself, Liam. I'm defending every woman who's ever been shamed for being pregnant. Every woman who's been called a liar when all she carried was truth." He nodded. She went back to work. The next morning, Vanessa called her old mentor, Diana Fields, who ran a women's empowerment nonprofit downtown. Vanessa had volunteered there years ago, long before she married Julian. "Diana, I want to fund a new initiative, legal defense for single mothers. Full ride." Diana was stunned. "Vanessa, you're incredible." "No," Vanessa said gently. "I'm just awake now." On the third day, the media turned. Photos of Julian and Tiffany at the gala made the rounds. Body language experts weighed in. Think pieces emerged. Is public pregnancy shaming the new power move for men? And when billionaires play the victim? Vanessa stayed silent. Her team sent one press statement: "We are conducting a private paternity test to resolve this matter." Vanessa Hale stands firm in her truth and will not be commenting further until results are confirmed. "We ask for privacy during this time." But the silence only made the public more curious. On day 4, someone leaked a video, taken by a server at the gala. In the clip, you could hear Julian's voice crystal clear: "That baby might not even be mine." The internet erupted. Julian released a statement: "I made an emotional comment that has been taken out of context. I love my wife and wish to resolve our issues privately." Too little, too late. Vanessa turned off her phone. She sat outside on the terrace, the wind tugging at her hair, her hand resting on her belly. The baby kicked, stronger this time. "You feel that?" she whispered. "That's power. That's you telling the world you're already a fighter." Liam joined her with 2 mugs of hot tea. "Tomorrow's the 5th day," he said softly. "You ready for the truth?" She looked at him, not as the scared woman at the gala, but as the woman who now had a purpose bigger than pain. "I've always known the truth," she said. "Now the world will." The next morning, the results arrived by secure courier. Vanessa opened the envelope with calm hands. She read the letter twice, then she passed it to Liam. He read it once. His shoulders relaxed. "It's conclusive," he said. Vanessa smiled. "I told you." That afternoon, she walked into the Carter Foundation headquarters wearing a tailored cream blazer over her bump, sunglasses, and heels. The receptionist froze. Staff whispered. Julian wasn't expecting her. She stepped into the boardroom mid-meeting. He looked up, startled. "Vanessa, what are you?" She dropped the envelope in front of him. "Open it." He hesitated. "Go on," she said. "Read it out loud, just like you announced your doubts at the gala. Let's keep the public narrative consistent." He opened it. His face paled. "Probability of paternity, 99.999%. He muttered. Vanessa leaned in. "You lied about the one thing you should have protected, your child." He opened his mouth to respond, but she cut him off. "This is the last time we ever speak without lawyers present. You'll get my terms by tomorrow." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh," she said, pulling out her phone. "And for the record, say one more word about me or this baby in public again, and I'll release the emails you sent Tiffany. The ones with timestamps that overlap with board meetings. The board might find those interesting." She walked out, head high. The elevator doors closed behind her with a satisfying chime. And just like that, the narrative shifted. Vanessa Hale was no longer the woman shamed at the gala. She was the woman who came back with proof, with fire, and with the billionaire at her side. And this was still just the beginning. Julian Carter had always been a man who believed in control. He controlled his image, every tailored suit, every magazine interview, every social media post carefully curated to project power, confidence, dominance. He controlled his business, delegating ruthlessly, manipulating competitors, spinning failures into calculated risks, and for years, he believed he controlled Vanessa. He thought love meant leverage. She had come into his life like a breeze, soft, smart, steady. A girl from nowhere who asked for nothing but gave him everything. She cooked, supported, smiled at the right times, never demanded the spotlight. To Julian, she was the perfect accessory. Elegant, respectable, invisible when needed. He never expected her to bite back. After the DNA results dropped and Vanessa walked out of the foundation boardroom with the grace of a queen leaving a throne she didn't need to beg for, Julian knew he had miscalculated, badly. Worse, the court of public opinion had turned against him overnight. He'd spent the past week holed up in his penthouse, PR team scrambling. The leaked video from the gala had gone viral. Influencers were doing dramatic reenactments. Celebrities were posting cryptic messages about loyalty and womanhood, with hashtags like #JusticeForVanessa and Believe Mothers. Julian's brand deals started to back out. His pending merger with a European tech firm was paused indefinitely. Investors stopped returning his calls. Even his assistant, no, his girlfriend, Tiffany, had gone radio silent. He was toxic now, and it was all her fault. He paced the glass walls of his luxury apartment, watching the city that once cheered his rise, now relish his downfall. His phone vibrated again. His attorney, Julian, the voice was flat, professional. Vanessa's team just served the separation papers. They're clean but aggressive. Full custody request. Public statement pending. You need to get ahead of this. Get ahead of what? Julian snapped. It's my child too. She's weaponizing the media. This is a smear campaign. Your child, the attorney said coldly, that you publicly denied. Julian ended the call. He opened his laptop and stared at the last interview he gave. A puff piece titled Julian Carter, The Future of Tech, Fatherhood, and Fortune. He clicked play. There he was on screen, smiling, smooth, lying. He closed the laptop with a slam. Across town, Vanessa wasn't smiling either. She was sitting in a sunlit room at Diana Field's nonprofit center, surrounded by young women in plastic chairs, each one carrying a story like a scar. She wasn't a guest. She was a speaker. People say I'm strong, she told them. But I didn't feel strong when he said those words at the gala. I felt small, broken, humiliated. She paused, letting the silence settle. But strength doesn't show up all at once. Sometimes it starts with one breath. One decision. One refusal to stay silent. A girl in the back wiped a tear. Another nodded slowly. Vanessa continued. He wanted to control my narrative, to erase me. But I decided he doesn't get to write my ending. I do. The room erupted in soft applause. After the session, Diana hugged her. You're changing lives already. Vanessa smiled faintly. That's the goal. Back at the estate, Liam was waiting. He'd spent the day arranging interviews, fielding inquiries from news outlets, and working with Gloria, the attorney, on the next steps. When Vanessa walked in, he handed her a tablet. CNN wants you live tomorrow, he said. Evening slot, national audience. You don't have to do it, but it's yours if you want it. She looked at the screen. It was tempting, but she shook her head. Not yet. I want to speak, but on my terms. Liam nodded. Then we wait. He paused. There's something else. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. He turned the tablet around and showed her the headline. Julian Carter spotted alone. Tiffany Blake abandons ship. Vanessa's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, just quiet satisfaction. Julian had used Tiffany as a weapon. Now she'd turned into smoke and disappeared, probably onto someone else's yacht. Vanessa turned away from the screen. I don't care what happens to them. Liam stepped closer. You don't have to. Just keep building forward. And she did. That week, she launched her own foundation, the HAIL Initiative, a support network for mothers experiencing public or legal pregnancy-related abuse. Funded by Vanessa's own investments, Liam had helped her quietly manage a trust for years. It opened with 4 offices in major cities. On launch day, her team posted a video, just 60 seconds. Vanessa stood in front of a blank wall, no makeup, wearing a simple white blouse. She said only this: I am a mother. I am not a mistake. I am not disposable, and I am not afraid. The video hit 10 million views in 2 days. Julian watched it alone in the dark. He didn't recognize the woman on screen. She was fire, and she was done playing soft. Desperate, Julian reached out. He sent her a message. We should talk, privately, for the baby's sake. Vanessa read it, then blocked the number. Gloria, her attorney, sent back an official statement. Miss Hale will only communicate through legal counsel. She has no interest in revisiting a dynamic built on deception, disrespect, and public defamation. We wish Mr. Carter the best in his healing journey. That phrase, healing journey, made headlines. Vanessa had become untouchable, and Julian, he'd become a cautionary tale. The man who thought he could erase her. But she wasn't just back. She was rising. And the next chapter wouldn't be about him at all. The truth didn't just come out. It exploded. It didn't trickle into inboxes or sneak into gossip blogs. It stormed onto national television, punched through trending hashtags, and hit the headlines like a wrecking ball. Vanessa Hale had stayed quiet long enough. The day started like any other. Quiet sunrise over the Hudson, birds sweeping past Liam's cliffside estate, and a fresh cup of tea resting on the patio table. But inside, everything buzzed. Her legal team had given the green light. Her media advisor confirmed the segment, and Vanessa, she was ready. CNN's evening broadcast featured a special segment, Silence No More, a woman's response to public betrayal. They recorded the interview in a minimalist studio, black backdrop, warm lighting, no glitz, no distractions. Vanessa sat on a single stool, one hand gently resting on her belly. She didn't need music or graphics. Her truth was dramatic enough. "I didn't come here to talk about revenge," she began, voice steady. "I came here to talk about reality, mine and thousands of women like me." The anchor, a poised woman named Joy Medina, gave her space to speak. And speak she did. She told the world about the gala, the denial, the baby. "I was 7 months pregnant when my husband looked me in the eye at a charity event we built together and publicly questioned if this child was his," she said. "There were cameras, journalists, friends. I didn't have time to fall apart. I had to walk out with my dignity still attached." Joy leaned forward. "And what happened next?" Vanessa looked straight into the camera. "I remembered who I was, and I decided that his shame would not become my story." She went on to reveal the paternity results. Clear, undeniable. Julian was the father, 99.999%. "He didn't just deny me," she said. "He denied his own blood." The segment ran 18 minutes. By the time it ended, the internet had caught fire. Clips flooded TikTok. Hashtags as like Vanessa Rising, DNA confirmed, and Not Your Narrative took over Twitter. Even celebrities chimed in. Viola Davis tweeted, "That's how you reclaim your story. Grace, power, facts." Julian tried to issue a statement. "My emotions got the better of me. I love my child and regret my words." It backfired. Commenters flooded his feed. "You don't get to come back now. She built an empire. You built an excuse. Shut up and pay child support." Meanwhile, Vanessa's interview reached 10 million views in 48 hours. Her foundation's website crashed from donations. Survivors wrote letters. Mothers shared their stories. And Vanessa? She sat in her office at the Hale Initiative headquarters, yes, her own HQ now, reading messages until her eyes blurred with tears. One from a young woman in Kansas read, "Your strength helped me leave my abusive boyfriend. My baby and I are safe now. Thank you for being loud when I couldn't." Vanessa closed the message and whispered, "This is why I had to speak." Across the room, Liam watched her. "You didn't just survive," he said. "You created a movement." But the truth had other consequences too. That same week, Julian was removed from the Carter Foundation board. Investors distanced themselves. A former assistant anonymously leaked workplace complaints. Allegations of verbal abuse, manipulation, and a pattern of controlling behavior surfaced. It wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. Julian had weaponized his power one too many times. Now it was all unraveling. He called Vanessa again. Blocked. He showed up at her nonprofit. Security escorted him off the premises. Then he did what weak men do when they've lost control. He got desperate. Julian's legal team filed a motion for joint custody, claiming Vanessa's media exposure made her an unfit mother. It was a strategic move, but also a colossal mistake. At the custody hearing, Vanessa arrived in a tailored black dress, her attorney Gloria by her side, flanked by legal advisors and support staff. The courtroom was tense. Julian showed up with slicked back hair and a fake smile. He tried to charm the judge. Didn't work. When Vanessa took the stand, she didn't cry. She didn't rage. She told the truth. "I carried this child while enduring emotional abandonment. I was publicly humiliated. I protected our unborn baby when he wouldn't even answer his phone," she said. "Now he wants rights, not to love this child, but to salvage his image." Gloria presented receipts, texts, emails, witness accounts. The judge ruled in Vanessa's favor. Sole custody, supervised visitation. Julian's face twisted as the gavel struck. Vanessa didn't look at him once. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. A reporter shouted, "Vanessa, any comment on the ruling?" She paused on the steps, then turned to face them. "I won't gloat," she said. "This was never about punishment. This was about protection. My baby deserves peace. I fought for that, and I'll keep fighting every day." That soundbite aired across every major network. It became a rallying cry. Later that night, Vanessa sat on her porch, wrapped in a soft shawl, watching the stars blink into the sky. Liam brought her a glass of sparkling water and sat beside her. "You did it," he said. She exhaled. "I did." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Liam asked, Do you ever think about what's next? Vanessa smiled. All the time. Want to tell me? She turned toward him. Not yet, but I promise it's bigger than anything I've done before. And deep in her heart she knew it was true. Because the truth wasn't just out. It had given her wings. And she had no intention of landing. No one tells you what happens after the firestorm. After the cameras pack up. After the court rulings are made. After the internet finishes clapping for your strength and moves on to the next trending tragedy. After the noise dies down and you're left in a quiet house with a baby that kicks against your ribs and a silence that feels louder than applause. Vanessa Hale had won every battle. She had exposed the lie, protected her child, reclaimed her name, crushed the legal system's attempts to intimidate her. The world saw a woman on fire, but inside, she was tired, not weak, not broken, just tired. Tired in the way only someone who's been surviving for too long can feel. Tired in the way your soul aches, even when your head is held high. After the custody ruling, Vanessa went home to her estate, stepped out of her heels, unzipped her dress, and sat on the bathroom floor for 30 minutes. She didn't cry, not because she didn't want to, because she couldn't. Her tears were used up. Her body was swollen, her baby was due in 6 weeks. The press kept calling, offers flooded in, book deals, interviews, podcasts, documentaries. Everyone wanted a piece of the pain. Vanessa told her team to hold all responses. She didn't want to be a brand. Not yet. She just wanted to breathe. So she unplugged. No social media, no news, just sleep. Food, prenatal yoga, music, and silence. Liam, ever loyal, respected her space. He stopped managing, stopped scheduling. Instead, he showed up with groceries and puzzle books, sat in the kitchen and read quietly while she rested on the couch. He didn't ask how she was feeling. He just was there. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky in copper and rose, Vanessa stood barefoot in the backyard, staring out at the water. Her hand rested on her belly. "I'm scared," she whispered. Liam didn't respond right away. Then quietly, "Of what?" "Of being enough," she said. "For this baby, for this new life, for all of it." "You already are," he replied. She turned to face him. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." A pause. "Do you remember the girl you used to know?" she asked. "Back in college, the one who just wanted a quiet life?" He smiled. "She's still here. She doesn't feel like it." "You're not meant to stay the same forever, Vanessa. Growth is messy, painful, but you've grown into someone the world needs." She let out a long breath. "What if I don't want to be needed right now?" "Then don't be," he said. "Be loved instead." His words landed softly, but something shifted. The next morning, Vanessa walked into her home office. It had been closed for weeks, the blinds drawn, the desk untouched. She opened the curtains. Light poured in. She sat down and opened her journal, the same one she'd written in since the first sonogram. She wrote, "Today I let go of the guilt of survival. I forgive myself for wanting rest. I honor the woman I was. I welcome the woman I'm becoming." And with that, she started to heal. The next few days were slow, purposeful. She baked muffins, read novels, took long baths, reorganized her closet. She found joy in small things. The flutter of baby kicks, the smell of lavender oil, the way her body curved to protect new life. One afternoon, she and Liam walked through the nursery. Soft gray walls, white crib. Shelves filled with children's books and handmade toys from women's shelters she'd supported. It wasn't perfect, it was peaceful. Vanessa sat in the rocking chair. Liam stood near the window. "You've built something beautiful," he said. She smiled. "You helped." He looked down. "Vanessa?" She looked up, and in that moment the air between them changed. He stepped closer, but before either of them could speak, Vanessa's phone buzzed. She reached for it, expecting another message from her legal team or her board. But it wasn't. It was from her mother's best friend, an elderly woman who still lived in Cincinnati. The message was simple. "Found something in your mom's old things. You might want to see it." Vanessa froze. She hadn't thought about her mother's journals in years. The last time she visited home was for the funeral. She had barely touched the attic. The next day, she booked a flight. Liam offered to go with her. She shook her head. "This is something I need to do alone." He understood. Cincinnati hadn't changed, still quiet, still modest, still humming with memories. Vanessa stepped into her childhood home, heart racing. The house smelled like lemon oil and old books. Time had slowed here. Everything looked untouched. In the attic, she found the box marked Linda's keepsakes. Inside were photos, old recipes, notes, and a journal. She opened it. Her mother's handwriting danced across the pages, stories of sacrifice, dreams, fears. But near the back, something else. A letter. Addressed to my Vanessa. For when you feel lost. Her breath caught. She unfolded it carefully. My darling girl, there will come a time when the world tries to break you. When someone you love forgets how to love you back. When your strength is tested, not in shouts but in silence. When that happens, remember this. You are made of every woman who refused to stay quiet. You are made of fire and truth. And no one, no man, no mistake, no heartbreak can erase what you were born to become. Rest if you must, but never forget you are the storm. Love, Mom. Vanessa sat in the attic for a long time, the letter pressed to her chest, tears finally flowing again. Not from pain, from release. When she returned to New York, something was different. Her steps were lighter, her voice stronger. She was no longer surviving, she was rebuilding. And this time, it would be on her terms. For most of her adult life, Vanessa Hale had worn the title of wife like it was a badge of honor. Not because she needed a man to validate her, but because she believed in partnership. She believed in love. She believed that being someone's wife meant being their teammate, their anchor, their mirror in good times and bad. But Julian Carter had twisted that role. He used it to confine her. In the early years, he called her his calm in the storm. But behind closed doors, he also called her too emotional, too dramatic, too soft. He praised her humility in public, but in private, mocked her simplicity. He wanted a woman who looked polished beside him but never outshined him. A woman who smiled for the cameras and stayed silent during board meetings. A woman who made him look stable, successful, and moral, even when he wasn't. Vanessa had worn that mask for years. But now it was shattered, and behind it stood someone much more dangerous. Someone real. The woman who had quietly supported his career was gone. In her place stood a leader, an advocate, a mother, and a woman who was no longer interested in shrinking to make room for someone else's ego. After returning from Cincinnati, Vanessa felt a new kind of clarity. Her mother's letter had done something no viral tweet or legal win could. It reminded her of who she was before the world tried to define her. She wasn't born to be someone's shadow. She was born to leave one. That same week, Vanessa called a meeting with the board of her nonprofit, the Hale Initiative. The organization had exploded in popularity over the past month. Donations, media attention, grant applications, it was growing faster than anyone expected. But Vanessa had a new vision. We've done incredible work, she said, standing at the head of the glass conference table. But we need to go bigger. I don't just want to respond to crisis, I want to prevent it. The board leaned in. We're launching a legal protection program, she continued. Full-time lawyers on staff, working pro bono for women facing custody battles, partner abuse, or financial control. And I want a national hotline accessible 24/7 for any woman who feels trapped and doesn't know where to start. The room erupted in nods and applause. Liam, seated quietly at the end of the table, watched her with admiration in his eyes. He had seen her collapse. Now he was watching her build, again. After the meeting, Vanessa walked into her office. On her desk sat a small velvet box. Inside, a diamond necklace, no card. Just a note tucked under the lid that read, "To the woman who was never just a wife." She held the necklace in her palm for a long time, not because she needed jewelry to feel powerful, but because someone had seen her fully and honored that power, not feared it. The next day, Vanessa received an invitation to speak at the Women's Leadership Forum in Washington, D.C., one of the most prestigious gatherings in the country. She said yes. And she didn't just attend. She owned the stage. Wearing a sharp white pantsuit and a soft blush lip, Vanessa walked to the podium to a standing ovation. The room was packed. Senators, CEOs, artists, journalists. She stood tall and said, "I'm not here to talk about what happened to me. I'm here to talk about what happens next." Her keynote was titled, "Don't Call Me Strong, Call Me Sovereign." She spoke of identity, of womanhood, of how the world praises resilience while secretly hoping you stay quiet, small, grateful. "I am done surviving. I am building," she said. "And I want every woman in this room to know you are never just anything. Not just a mom, not just an assistant, not just a wife. You are a force. And when you reclaim that power, There is nothing more terrifying to those who tried to tame you." The room roared with applause. Clips of the speech went viral within hours. And for the first time, her name wasn't followed by scandal or drama in the headlines. It was followed by visionary. But not everyone was applauding. Julian watched the coverage from a hotel room in LA. He'd been bouncing from city to city, trying to secure new deals, all of which were falling through. His PR team had quit. Investors ghosted him. His name was now associated with betrayal and ego, not innovation. He had one card left to play. He booked a flight back to New York, and he showed up, unannounced. Vanessa was leaving her office late one evening when she saw him standing in the lobby, suit wrinkled, eyes tired. "Julian," she said flatly. "I just want 5 minutes," he said. "Please." She considered, then nodded. In the private conference room, he started with what he thought was vulnerability. "I messed up," he said. "I let my fear make decisions. I didn't know how to handle all of it. The baby, the pressure, the responsibility. I was stupid." Vanessa let him speak. He rambled about forgiveness, regret, second chances. Finally, he said, "You were always the better half of us. I see that now. I don't want to be cut out of everything." Vanessa looked at him for a long time. Then she leaned forward, calm and cold. "I was never the better half, Julian," she said. "I was the whole. And you tried to reduce me to less than I am." His mouth opened, closed. She stood. "This isn't your redemption story. You don't get to use my growth to soften your fall." He stood too, angry now. "So that's it?" She nodded. "That's it?" She walked to the door, then turned one last time. "You wanted a silent wife, but I was never just a wife. I was always a storm. You just didn't notice until I rained on your empire." She left him standing there and never looked back. Power looks different when you've earned it through pain. It doesn't strut, it doesn't scream, it doesn't chase validation. Real power walks into a room and doesn't explain itself. Vanessa Hale had finally arrived at that place. She didn't need apologies. She didn't need approval. She didn't need a man to validate her worth or a crowd to clap for her decisions. She had reclaimed everything that was taken, and now she was deciding what to build next, her way, her terms. In the weeks following her showdown with Julian, Vanessa entered what the media called her quiet phase. But nothing about it was idle. Behind the scenes, she was structuring a private investment firm, Hale Legacy Ventures, focused on funding female-led startups, social justice innovations, and women's health initiatives. People assumed she was just a nonprofit girl. She let them think that, until the day she closed a $30 million deal with a green tech firm led by 3 Latina founders who'd been overlooked by every major VC in Silicon Valley. The press caught on quickly. The headline read, "From betrayed wife to power broker, Vanessa Hale enters the business arena." But what caught even more attention wasn't her deal. It was her look. At the Women's Finance Summit in Manhattan, Vanessa appeared in a floor-length, fitted black dress, hair slicked back, diamond studs shimmering under the lights. She stepped onto the stage flanked by her all-female advisory board. She didn't need Julian's name anymore. She had built a new one that stood on foundation, not scandal. Reporters tried to steer the narrative back to her personal life. One of them shouted as she exited the venue, "Vanessa, is there a new man in your life?" She paused, turned, and said, "Yes, his name is Peace." The crowd laughed, and she smiled, but it was more than just wit. It was truth. Peace had become her most valuable asset. But it wasn't all glamour and power plays. At night, when the meetings ended and the cameras were gone, Vanessa sat in her nursery, humming softly, folding tiny onesies, preparing for the baby's arrival. It reminded her of what all this was for. Not revenge, not image, legacy. That was the word she kept repeating. Legacy. She was building something her daughter could inherit, not just financially, but spiritually. A name rooted in strength, in truth, in freedom. And though she hadn't spoken much publicly about Liam since the scandal, his presence had only grown deeper. He never asked for the spotlight. He never pushed for more. But he was always there. At every fundraiser, behind every closed-door negotiation, in every late-night kitchen conversation. He wasn't a savior. He was a witness. And Vanessa respected that. One evening, as they sat on the terrace, the city glowing behind them, Liam finally asked what had been resting on the edge of every moment. "Do you think we'll ever be more than this?" Vanessa turned to him. "I think we already are," she said. He looked confused. She smiled. More than lovers, more than friends. We're partners, in the truest sense. He nodded. So what does that mean? It means you don't complete me, Liam, she said. You support me, and I support you. That's real love, not the kind that binds, the kind that builds. He didn't need to say anything. His eyes said it all. He reached over, took her hand, and placed it gently over her belly. A soft kick. Vanessa laughed. She knows you. He grinned. She already has excellent taste. The next day, Vanessa received a letter from a publishing house, one of the most prestigious in the country. They wanted her story. Not just the scandal, not just the speeches. Her truth. She thought about it for a long time. Then she picked up her pen and began writing. Not about Julian. Not about revenge. But about rebirth. She titled the manuscript, Her Power, Her Terms. In it, she wrote, I was raised to believe that marriage was the ultimate success, that motherhood required sacrifice, that silence was strength. But I've learned something far more valuable. Boundaries are strength. Vision is strength. Owning your narrative, especially after someone tries to rewrite it without your consent, that's strength. She wrote at night in soft candlelight after the world had gone quiet. She told the story not just of betrayal, but of awakening. She told it not for sympathy, but for solidarity. And when the first draft was done, she emailed it to the publisher with one sentence in the body. This isn't about what happened to me. It's about what I did with it. A week later, they called with a 7-figure offer. Vanessa accepted, on the condition that part of the advance go toward funding scholarships for young mothers pursuing degrees. She didn't want a bestseller. She wanted impact. At her next board meeting, Vanessa stood at the head of the room again. But this time, there was no suit, no presentation, just her. Radiant, pregnant, unapologetic. She said, we've done what people said couldn't be done, but this is still just the foundation. We're going to fund more clinics, support more legal battles, open doors for every woman who's ever been told she was too much or not enough. The board applauded. But Liam? He just smiled from the back corner of the room. Because he knew this wasn't just a comeback story. This was a woman stepping fully into her power. Not borrowed, not begged, earned. And this time, no one could take it away. Some moments are made to be remembered. Not just lived, but witnessed. And Vanessa Hale had spent months preparing for this one. The gala that destroyed her had come full circle. This time it wasn't Julian's name on the invitation. It was hers. The Hale Initiative Annual Gala for Justice and Dignity. The event would take place at the exact same luxury venue where Julian had publicly humiliated her. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, least of all the media, who swarmed for invites like it was the Oscars. But this wasn't about red carpets. This was about revelation. The night of the gala, Vanessa stood in front of her full-length mirror. She didn't just see herself. She saw everything. Every sleepless night. Every tear. Every courtroom session. Every tiny win that built the tower she now stood on. Her dress was custom-made, midnight blue, off-shoulder, cascading silk that hugged her baby bump like a badge of honor. She wore no necklace, no crown. She didn't need them. Her presence was the statement. Liam stepped into the room behind her. He froze when he saw her. You look like justice, he said. She turned slightly. Good, because that's what tonight is. Outside, cameras flashed as guests arrived. Activists, politicians, survivors, artists. Women who had once been silenced were now seated at tables of honor. Every place setting had a quote engraved into the napkin ring. Vanessa's choice? I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. She made sure even the decor spoke. When Vanessa finally stepped onto the venue's iconic marble staircase, the room fell silent. Not out of obligation, out of awe. This wasn't the same woman they remembered from last year's chaos. This was a woman who had walked through fire and didn't smell like smoke. Vanessa descended slowly, every step deliberate. At the base of the stairs, Liam waited, not as a date, but as her support. They didn't hold hands. They didn't need to. The unity between them was unspoken, but undeniable. As she reached the bottom, someone in the crowd began clapping. Then another. Then the whole room stood. It wasn't applause. It was acknowledgement. Vanessa took the microphone with poise. Thank you all for being here, she began. Tonight isn't about what was taken from us. It's about what we took back. The crowd hushed. She continued. 1 year ago, I stood on this very floor, 7 months pregnant, When the man I loved humiliated me in front of this city, he tried to erase me, tried to turn the truth into scandal. But he didn't realize, women like me don't disappear. We transform. The crowd erupted in cheers. She went on to announce the launch of the Reclaim Fund, a $10 million emergency grant to support women fleeing high-profile abuse and defamation. No applications, no red tape, just immediate, direct relief. This isn't charity, she said. This is correction. This is balance. This is justice. By the end of her speech, people were in tears. But Vanessa wasn't finished. As the music resumed and dinner was served, a last-minute guest appeared at the entrance. Julian, in a sharp tux, alone, eyes scanning, hoping. He hadn't RSVP'd, but someone let him in. He walked through the tables, tension following him like a shadow. Some guests whispered, others turned away. He reached the center of the room and paused, staring directly at Vanessa. She met his gaze, calm, unbothered. Liam stepped forward protectively, but Vanessa touched his arm. Let him watch, she said softly. Julian never made it to her table. Security gently intercepted and directed him to the back row. No special access, no spotlight. Just a seat. Like everyone else. As the final part of the night began, a short video presentation, Vanessa introduced it. This isn't about me, she said into the mic. It's about every woman who thought she had to stay quiet. Here are their voices. The screen lit up, faces, stories, testimonies. A single mother who fought a celebrity for custody and won. A tech CEO who revealed workplace abuse and built her own company from scratch. A domestic survivor who turned her scars into a fashion line that donates 100% to shelters. Vanessa's voice narrated the end. We are not headlines. We are heroines. And tonight, the story changes. Because we are the ones writing it. The room stood again. Julian remained seated. When the lights came back on, Vanessa made her way to the garden terrace for air. Liam followed silently. The city shimmered below them. Was it everything you hoped? He asked. She exhaled. It was what I needed. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Liam turned toward her. You've done something no one else could. She smiled softly. What's that? You made them watch, he said. And you didn't flinch. She laughed. Of course not. They've always been watching. They just didn't expect me to rise. He looked at her, eyes gentle. So what now? Vanessa placed both hands on her belly. Now, she said, I bring a child into a world I've helped make safer. And after that, I keep going. Liam stepped closer. You won't have to do it alone, she met his gaze. I know. That night, as the gala ended and guests trickled into limos and taxis, Julian walked out the back entrance alone. No applause, no cameras, just silence. Vanessa? She remained on the terrace, unbothered, victorious. She hadn't just taken back the night. She made the world remember it. Every woman has a moment in her life where she chooses. Remain the broken girl they expect you to be, or become the version of yourself they fear. Vanessa Hale had made her choice. She was no longer the story of betrayal. She was the storm they should have seen coming. In the months after the gala, Vanessa gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Aurora Grace Hale. The name meant dawn and unmerited favor. It fit perfectly. The delivery was quiet, intimate. No press, no announcements, no chaos. Just her, Liam, a midwife, and the sound of new life. Vanessa held her daughter against her chest and whispered, You came from fire, and you'll never need to fear it. She had cried, not from pain, but from peace. She had survived everything that tried to destroy her, and in her arms she now held the reason she would never fall again. Aurora was more than a baby. She was the beginning of a legacy. 2 weeks later, Vanessa made her first public appearance as a mother. Not on a talk show, not in a magazine spread, but at the dedication of the Hale Center for Women's Legal Empowerment, a free legal hub for women seeking justice against abuse, financial manipulation, or partner betrayal. The ribbon-cutting ceremony wasn't glamorous. There were no paparazzi, just a room full of survivors and their daughters. Vanessa stood at the podium, her daughter swaddled peacefully in a sling across her chest. I was told I was too emotional, too naive, too trusting, too weak, she said. But the truth is, I was always too powerful, and now I'm just starting to use it. The crowd applauded. Some cried, because they knew this wasn't just a speech. It was a signal. Vanessa wasn't done. She was rising, and she was bringing others with her. Meanwhile, Julian Carter's reputation had crumbled beyond repair. His failed attempt at rebranding fell flat. No one cared about his apologies anymore. Bookings disappeared, interviews got canceled. His name had become a cautionary tale in boardrooms and brunch tables. He watched from afar as Vanessa's star rose. He thought about reaching out again. One last plea for redemption, for relevance. But something stopped him. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was fear, or maybe it was the realization that he no longer mattered. Because she didn't just survive him, she eclipsed him. Vanessa's book, Her Power, Her Terms, became a national bestseller in its first week. It wasn't just bought, it was studied. In colleges, therapy groups, leadership seminars, it wasn't a memoir of a woman scorned. It was a roadmap. One that said, yes, you can start again, and yes, you can win. The book's most highlighted quote? I am not your lesson, I am your warning. Treat every woman like she's already free or prepare to lose her. It echoed across platforms, in boardrooms, in HR policies. Vanessa was invited to speak at the UN Women's Conference. She wore a gold suit and spoke without notes. She told her story not with rage, but with certainty. They tried to shame me, she said, and all they did was show me where I needed to grow. Shame didn't kill me, it cleared the path. As the world applauded, she didn't flinch. She no longer needed their approval. The next chapter of her life wasn't about proving anything. It was about being a mother, being a builder, being the blueprint. At home, her days were quieter. Bottle feeds, diaper changes, soft lullabies. But Vanessa didn't see it as a trade-off. She saw it as power in a new form. She built a nursery that doubled as a reading nook. She held board meetings with Aurora on her lap. She redefined what success looked like. One night, as she rocked her daughter to sleep, Liam stepped in. He watched her silently, then said, "You know, she's going to change the world." Vanessa smiled. "She already is." Liam came closer, kissed her forehead. "You changed mine first." It wasn't a proposal, and have to be. They weren't rushing titles. They were building a team. A few months later, Vanessa was asked to deliver a commencement speech at her old university. She wore a simple white dress, gold earrings, and no script. She stood before thousands of graduates and said, "People will tell you that strength looks like loud ambition. But sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like choosing yourself over tradition. Sometimes it looks like holding your baby with one arm while signing million-dollar contracts with the other." She paused, then added, "I was never the victim. I was the warning. And I hope to God you never give anyone a reason to become me." The crowd went wild. And somewhere in that sea of faces, future CEOs, activists, and healers were born in that moment. Not because she gave them answers, but because she showed them possibility. Vanessa Hale's name now appeared in the same conversations as Michelle Obama, Malala, and Oprah. But she never let it change her. She stayed grounded. Not because of fear, but because of Aurora. And because her story was never about fame. It was about freedom. So if you ever ask what happened to that woman who was shamed at the gala, here's your answer. She didn't just come back. She came for everything. Maybe the story ends here. But I don't want to just say goodbye. I want to leave you with something small. A keyword, a simple phrase I truly believe could be the beginning of a brand new chapter in your life. I reclaimed my worth. Because you know what? We, those who've been betrayed, dismissed, pushed out of our own lives, we don't need to disappear. We just need to remember. Our worth was never gone. It was only buried under someone else's shadow. And one day, we get to uncover it. Quietly, intentionally, powerfully. I want you to write it down right in the comments. Don't do it for me, do it for you. I reclaimed my worth. Write it, see it, feel it, and trust me. The moment you write those words, the universe begins to move in your favor. The moment you dare to say, "I deserve to be valued again," that's the moment your new chapter begins. And you know what? That phrase, "I reclaimed my worth," isn't just for you. It's for someone out there who needs to hear it today. Maybe you will be the one to inspire them with just one line. So if you saw yourself in this story, if you felt heard, understood, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. Here, I don't tell stories to teach you how to live. I tell them so you'll remember one powerful truth. You are not alone, and you are worthy of a new chapter, one filled with strength, freedom, and light.